Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Can we start the program now?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Now we welcome all our participants to this fifth session where His Grace Madan Sundar Das Prabhuji is going to discuss on the topic which is on reincarnation, fact or fiction. So now I request Madan Sundar Das Prabhuji to go ahead with this particular topic. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatadi Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, okay. So we welcome you all for another session of this Gita Wisdom series. And we are today on the third topic, reincarnation, will be the first session for today. So in this series of Gita Wisdom, so far we have discussed, does God exist? Then in the second topic, we discussed, are Vedas factual, real literatures, scriptures, or are they fictional? And today we're going to discuss the third topic, titled as Reincarnation, fact or fiction? Hare Krishna. Are we ready with the movie? Okay. So to begin with this topic, we are going to play a short movie, which was played out in a prime time show in America. To give you just a gist of it, because we might not have the time to play it out completely. So this is a video about a young boy born into a Catholic family where mother is Catholic, father is atheist, where father believes whatever science tells. Science tells we are just a bundle of chemicals. And mother is Catholic, she believes in God, but still any of the Abrahamic religion, they do not have any discussion about the subject matter of Atma, soul. Now here the young boy, hardly 5-year-old boy, he begins to have relapses. He begins to recall of his past life. And that is a journey, that is a description here in this video, which is highlighted, which was shown in a primetime show in America. And it's a journey of several months, which has been put into 7-8 minutes. And the conclusion is finally the father was forced against his will to believe that his son had a reincarnation, or his son is a reincarnation. And he, in the end of the video, says that there are so many evidences that although I do not want to believe in all the subjects, but I'm forced to believe because I cannot avoid it anymore. I did all my thorough research and everything to disprove it. By the end of the day, whatever my son told and whatever I saw all through this months, in fact, have proven to be true. That this son is not what I know of as my son. He is a reincarnation of a junior, firefighter who died in a plane crash in Second World War. So I'll request our host Vishwakaran Prabhu to play it out. Hare Krishna.
Nightmares, but Andrea says they went on the same way for months, maybe too much TV. But James was just 2, and his parents say only watching Barney and Teletubbies.
Teletubbies!
And Andrea and Bruce say they weren't watching World War II documentaries or conversing about military history.
This is an F-18?
No, that one.
So what explains the nightmares and James's strange obsession with airplanes?
I talked to my mom about it a lot of times. My mom had said maybe he's remembering a past life.
What did you say?
Politely, baloney.
Andrea and Bruce of Lafayette, Louisiana are a highly educated, modern couple. To them, the possibility that their little son James was manifesting signs of a former life was, well, a little out there.
You know, having a past life is not the initial conclusion that you come to. You try and figure out any other way he could have. Did he see anything? Has there been anything on television, anything that we've discussed?
But as time went by, Andrea didn't know what to believe. Here's James at age 3, going over a plane as if he's doing a pre-flight check. He would continue to say and do things that were puzzling, like the time his mom bought him a toy airplane.
And I said, oh, look, there's a bomb on the bottom of it. He said, that's not a bomb, Mama, that's a drop tank.
A drop tank?
I'd never heard of a drop tank. I didn't know what a drop tank was.
Andrea's mother suggested she look into the work of counselor and therapist Carol Bowman. Bowman has written 2 books, both supporting the proposition that sometimes the dead can be reborn.
We are taught from a very early age in this culture, in the Judeo-Christian culture, that reincarnation doesn't exist. Once you observe this in a child, and the evidence is very compelling, you have to open up to another explanation for what is going on.
Bruce was deeply skeptical.
He said there has to be a logical explanation.
I don't believe in past lives. I don't believe in this stuff.
But with the violent nightmares recurring 3 and 4 times a week, the Leinigers felt they had to do something. So with guidance from Bowman, they cautiously began to encourage James to share his memories. They say the result was startling.
The nightmares immediately started reducing in frequency. He went down from 3 or 4 times a week to maybe 1 a week, 1 every other week. And at that point was when he started to articulate more about these past life memories.
Seems normal enough, a little boy improving when his troubles are directly addressed. But Bowman says this is more, that James was forthcoming because this is the age when former lives are most easily recalled.
They haven't had the cultural conditioning, the layering over of experience in this life, so that the memories can percolate up more easily. These memories tend to fade between the ages of 5 to 7.
His parents say between the ages of 2 and 4, James would reveal extraordinary details about the life of a former fighter pilot, mostly at bedtime, when he was drowsy.
Bruce said, what happened to your plane? He said, it crashed on fire. And Bruce said, why did your airplane crash? And he said, it got shot. And Bruce said, well, who shot your plane? And I'll never forget the look on his face. He went, oh, the Japanese.
Still, despite these extraordinary stories, Bruce remained dubious. Almost to prove they couldn't be true, he began to piece together the details James was sharing. And what he found, he says, shook him to the core. For in many instances, the stories appeared to match the facts. James seemed to be recalling real events, real people, in the life of a man who'd been dead for almost 60 years. With each passing month, little James Leineger seemed to be peeling back memories of a past life that scared and astonished his parents.
Bruce had always said, "What kind of plane did you fly?" And he said, "A Corsair."
Yeah.
He said a Corsair?
He said the word Corsair.
Not only did James remember flying a Corsair, he demonstrated knowledge of the plane's peculiarities, like the time he was flipping through a book about planes when he was 4.
And he got to the Corsair and he said, "That's a Corsair." And he goes, "You know what? They used to get flat tires all the time."
In fact, historians and pilots agree that the plane's tires took a lot of punishment on landing. Of course, this is a fact that could easily be found in books or on TV. But then, James began to offer up the kinds of specific details his parents say are harder to explain away.
Another night, Bruce had come in and he said, "Do you remember where your plane took off?" And he said it took off of a boat. "Do you remember the name of your boat?" "Natoma." "Do you remember what your name was?" And he'd always say, "James." His name is James. It never really occurred to us. We thought he just wasn't understanding the question.
Go to 10 minutes. Hare Krishna. So I'll just brief up what happens next because the video is... Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. I
Yes,
guess screen
Prabhuji.
sharing has to be changed. Okay, let it be this way. We're going to play. So I'll just give you the gist of it because otherwise it'll take too much time for this video. So James is his name in this life. And whenever the parents would ask, "What's your name?" If you think, you remember your previous life, you'd always say James. So that's what the mother's saying. They could never figure it out what's happening. And finally, there's a whole thorough research is described. Later on, the father did research of the Second World War cases and all that. And then he found out in Second World War, there was a plane, there was a fighter, who flew a plane, which was, along with a batch of flights that were flying to Japan to drop the atom bomb. So there was this James Jr., James II, who was also there in a fighter plane, flying a plane, but however, on the way, it crashed. And that is this person, this James Jr., who was reborn as into this family. And in this family, coincidentally, his name was also James. So whenever the parents would ask, "What was your name in his previous life?" he would always say James, so they never understood. And that's how the story goes on. And finally, can we just play from the 10 minutes where the concluding part, which is very interesting, where it is described, where the reporter asked to the parents, particularly to the father, "What do you think of all this thing?" Please go ahead.
That is, in his past life, he was James M. Houston Jr. And he came back because he wasn't finished with something. And that's essentially what I believe.
Dear Bruce and Andrea.
And he's not the only one. This past October, the Leinegers received a letter from a woman named Ann Barron, the sister of pilot James Houston. Andrea and Bruce had contacted her about their little boy. Barron heard about what young James was saying, and she believes.
All of this is still overwhelming. I can only imagine how it has affected you, but I believe, with my love to you, Anne. The child was so convincing and coming up with all these things that there's no way in the world he could know.
Once upon a time, the Leinegers might have agreed, but that was before the amazing stories told by their young son forced them to consider the possibility.
No, I need to see the time.
And to examine their faith.
Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, it's about the eternal life of the human spirit.
That's right.
And that's something God promises to us. There is something else out there.
So that's
after this. It's not over when you die.
James's vivid recollections are starting to fade as he gets older, but among his prized possessions are 2 gifts sent to him by pilot James Houston's sister: a bust of George Washington and a model of a Corsair aircraft. They were among the personal effects of James Houston, sent home after the war.
Hare Krishna. So you just saw an interesting video, primetime show of ABC Network, one of the biggest network in America, where this real life incident was shown. And you saw the mother and father being Catholic, have faith. In the end, she says, "Well, life is eternal." That's what God says. And the father, you should have seen look at the face of the father. I mean, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in all this thing. And it was so difficult for him to agree, yes, there is indeed soul. There is indeed reincarnation. So, anyways, that's the subject matter that we're going to get into it. I thought we'll, with this video, we'll do an icebreaker and then we get into the subject matter. We'll have some more stories to talk about, and definitely one of the favorite topic, the ghosts, hobgoblins, and the pretas and vitas. In case any one of you would have a question, we'll definitely take that. So, coming back to the subject matter, I would like to speak a little more on the subject of Vedas being real or fiction. One point that I did not discuss yesterday, and I intentionally kept it for today's discussion. And some of you had asked me a question on this subject matter after our interaction got over. Vedic scriptures are the only scriptures in the whole world where there's an elaborate discussion on the subject matter of Atma or soul. In fact, one of the foundational teachings of Lord Shri Krishna that Krishna gives to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, in fact, the initial teaching, the very first teaching which is given by Krishna to Arjuna, is that Arjuna, you're not the body or soul. In other words, any or every part of Vedic scripture, or the history, or the Purana, if you see, there's always a discussion about reincarnation, there's always a discussion about life after death, and so forth. Or if not that, there's always a discussion about previous lives, the past lives of different great personalities like that. So Vedic scripture is rooted with this particular idea. But if you take of any other religious text, unfortunately, there is no discussion of the subject matter of soul. So we were discussing yesterday, are Vedas real or fiction? So we said there are two challenges because of which people find it difficult to believe. One, credit goes to Max Muller for terming Vedic scriptures as mythology, translating Sanskrit text into English, and giving a perverted meaning to it. And second, Vedic scriptures are difficult to understand or comprehend. And these two things mixed together have made things very complicated. Even things which were known to all of us in our previous generations, everyone believed in this subject matter. And today, the modern youth, the modern generation, completely deny this subject matter. So I would like to go a little bit in fundamentals. And I believe all of you are aware that this nation was earlier called as Bharatvarsh. Yes or no? Can we a little bit have an interaction if you have the chat box enabled? If not, I would request the host to do it. So we know you are a little bit familiar with this. So yes, so most of you are replying, great. So here is my question to all of you. When did Bharat become India? And why? What was the need to change the name? That's the subject matter. So let's take a look. Bharatvarsh, the name of Bharat, is named after son Bharat of Rishabdev. There are three great Bharats. We'll discuss about it some other time. That's not the subject matter here. And all this while, in all of our history books, all of our scriptures, Puranas, everywhere. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, you are the descendant of Bharat. Because one of the Bharat was ancestor of Arjuna and who was the son of Shakuntala and Dushyanta, like that. So Bharatvarsh, this great nation was called as Bharatvarsh. So when and how it became India? Well, it happened in 1848. 1848. Britishers decided to change the name of this country, and they decided to systematically wipe off the history of this great culture and reduce or minimize the culture and the traditions of Vedic culture or Vedic life to call it as imaginary, speculative, and orthodox and whatnot. So in 1848, Bharat became India. And what was the history which was written after that? And the history that was written after that was this India. Why it is called India? Because there was a civilization that existed in this land only 3,500 years ago, not prior to that. So which means if the civilization only existed here 3,500 years ago, which means the Vedic scriptures are not older than 3,500 years ago. Vedic scriptures are written less than 3,500 years ago. And that's the reason they begin to argue, how can you say Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago when the scriptures were written 3,500 years ago? Which means it's a fictional story. So like that, they came up with different ideas. So how this India got its name? From the Indus River. So actually the name of the river is Sindhu. In Sanskrit, the name of the river is Sindhu. You find the reference of this river in Vedic scriptures, which at today's time crosses through Pakistan, goes to Arabia, it rises up, or it originates in Himalaya. In English, it is called as Indus River. And now they created a concept called as Indus Valley Civilization, which means the civilization across the Indus or the Sindhu River. And they said this group of people are called as Indus Valley Civilization. And that's the reason we are naming it as India. Now, I'm going to raise two questions and quickly give an answer to it. What is their version of history, which more or less all of us are aware? Is it real? Second, if not, then why Britishers created a fake history? Now, we all know, we discussed yesterday, why did they create a fake history? And the idea was to dishonor Vedas for political and religious purpose. For political mileage, so that they can control to rule over this country. For religious purpose, so they can do a large-scale conversions. On the name of conversion, on the name of religion, they can keep people subjugated under their rule for a longer time. The rest all is history. So how did they succeeded? I didn't discuss at length yesterday, but it is important to know a little bit for us. How did they succeeded? Max Muller and his team of people went on to create a new theory, which is called as Aryan invasion theory. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna called Arjuna as Aryan. And he says, an Aryan, hey Arjuna, you should not act as a non-Aryan. This is the word comes in Bhagavad Gita itself, the second chapter. What does it mean? Krishna tells Arjuna, or what is the meaning of the word Aryan? Aryan refers to a person belonging to a highly civilized culture, highly educated, intellectual, and belongs to a great civilization. So this Aryan word comes again and again in Vedic scriptures. So what was this Aryan invasion theory? Aryan invasion theory meant or dictated that 3,500 years ago, Aryans, who were not natives of this land, rather real Aryans were Europeans. And 3,500 years ago, these Europeans migrated across Indus River, came to this area, and Hare Krishna. They came here and they settled down at this area, and they are the one who wrote the Vedic scriptures. And then they taught to the people that 3,500 years ago, our ancestors came from Europe to taught you civilization, to give you education. And today we have come back again to give you culture. And like that, they systematically planted wrong stories about our own tradition and culture. In essence, Vedas are only 3,500 years old. So what was the first thing that they accomplished? First thing, through this theory, they denied the origin of Bharat's predominant culture and gave the credit of Bharat's culture to invaders from Europe. It is this invaders or Europeans who brought the culture, and they are the real Aryans. All of you are aware of Adolf Hitler of the Nazis, head of the Nazis army. For his political party, the symbol that he had used was a swastika, right? But it was inverted swastika. And he used to call that we are the true Aryans, Germans are the true Aryans. That's the first thing. Now, what was the whole idea of propagating this Aryan invasion theory? As I said, one is to undermine the Bharat's culture and also to tell people of this land that actually you're totally dependent on us, you're uncultured. And what they propagated second along with that is they said, prior when we Aryans came here, there were a group of people living here who were called as Dravidians. Now, when these Aryans came here, they pushed and they chased away these Dravidians. Who are the Dravidians? They are called as uncultured Adivasi people. And these Aryans, highly cultured people, they chased these Dravidians, and these Dravidians went and settled down in South India. And these Aryans who came and settled in North India, later on they created this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya class. And since then, they sowed the seed of a conflict between Brahmanas and Dravidians. In other words, North Indians and South Indians. So you go in South India, you can still see this subject matter is used for the political mileage. I studied in South India, so I know this very well, how the conflict exists. First point. Second point that they said, see, the North Indians have a fairer complexion than the South Indian, which itself is a proof that their ancestors belong to Europe. and the people here were dark skinned and they were pushed down to South India. And like that, they give different kind of logic behind it. Another point. One of the aspects of the British rule was to convert, which had been a tradition with any Abrahamic faith. Not going to details of that aspect, focusing on the subject. So they had to convert people. Now, to convert people to Christianity, Bible have to be accepted. Bible have to be accepted as the authorized word. But how do you accept Bible? Because there are so many contradictory claims made in Bible. First of all, Atma is not accepted. One life is a concept. Second, the creation, the details of different aspects of the life given in Bible quite contradicts with Vedic scripture. And in those days, everyone was very well learned and versed with the Vedic scriptures. So how do you fool people around? So that's the reason they had to introduce this. Along with this, they had to stop the Gurukul education and take over the whole commercial aspect. So if Vedas are accepted as a truth, then everything spoken in Bible will be put to question. So I'm going to give just two examples. According to biblical time frame, world was created only 6,000 years ago. To be precise, according to biblical time frame, world was created on 23rd October. On 23rd October at 10 a.m. and around 24 minutes, 6,004 years ago. However, according to Vedic scriptures or Vedas, the universe was created 155 trillion years ago. How do you reconcile? Now, is Bible correct or Vedic scriptures correct? I will leave it on to you to decide. Another very interesting example which comes in Bible is about Noah's Ark, which according to their belief, 4,500 years ago, there was a great deluge caused by the Lord. And the Lord appeared to Noah and told him that I want to save you and I want you to create a boat. Ark is an old English word which means a boat. Create a boat. The whole world is going to get deluged or flooded because I'm upset with this people. They're doing so many sinful activities. And I want you to collect one species of every plant and an animal, take onto this boat, and I will save you from this flood. At the end of it, we'll start a new civilization. Does it sound similar to any other story that you have heard from the Vedic Puranas? What is that? Who knows the answer? If you have the chance to unmute, you unmute, or else you can type in. Yes, the Matsya avatar. Everyone knows about this Matsya avatar. Matsya avatar in King Shantanu, where Matsya avatar had appeared, where the Yuga period had to change. And at the end of the Yuga, there are 4 Yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga. At the transition phase, always there is a flood. And that's the time this particular incident had happened. So these are some things that I'm talking about. The main question is there any proof that Indian civilization or the Vedic civilization had the Vedas before so-called Aryans arrived 3,500 years ago? See, you might wonder, Prabhu, the subject matter is reincarnation. Why am I going a little bit in history? If you speak to anyone in the intellectual world or anyone amongst those who are educated and studied history and all that, they would always pinpoint at this point. Because I travel around and I talk to a lot of people. This is one place where they're going to pinpoint you and say, Arey, Vedic scriptures written 3,500 years ago. So your whole time cycle that is given in Vedic scriptures, that Ramayana or Ram appeared 12.5 lakh years ago, Lord Shri Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, by default becomes fictional because the world was created 6,000 years ago only. So there are certain things for us to know. And I'm going to give you 5 to 6 evidences, a counter argument to this subject matter of Aryan invasion theory. If you go up on internet, you'll find a lot of facts about it. And in the end of it, we can just say yes or no, if it makes sense or not. The very first claim. Our scriptures at large talks about Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati, right? Of course, Sindhu is also there, Kaveri, Narmada, these are all sacred rivers. Now, Saraswati is not there anymore. According to anthropology, when they did research, they found out this Saraswati riverbed dried up 4,000 years ago. It dried up 4,000 years ago, and 500 years later, these Europeans, so-called Europeans, came to India, and they settled, right? 3,500 years ago. So the question arises when they came, and there is a span of 500 years, and they had never ever arrived before than that. So why did they discuss about Saraswati which did not existed? Yes or no? It didn't happen. It wasn't there. It was not 5 years ago old thing. 500 means at least 10 generations have passed. Yes or no? And in that 10 generations, nobody knows about Saraswati River. So why would these people, anyways, they have chased away the natives from that land, who they called as Dravidians, and they pushed them South India. And the Europeans settled down in the North India. There was no native remaining there. Whoever was remaining, they butchered up, according to Aryan invasion theory. Then from where did they got this idea about the Saraswati River, which never existed? Another interesting thing, if you read Mahabharata, when 18 days of war is about to happen, there is a description in Mahabharata where it is described how the warriors from different parts of the world came. There's a description of warriors coming from Greek. You know, Kalyavan, one of the demons that Krishna killed through Muchukunda, he's said to be the king of the Greeks. This is described in the scripture. The Russia, which we call as Russia today, in scripture is called as Rishi Pradesh. So there were warriors who had come from Rishi Pradesh. And what we know of today as Mauritius is a place where Marich, when he was shot an arrow by Lord Ram, had fallen down, is the place where Ravan had gone and met Marich in the Mauritius. You know, so these things are already there, where people had come from all those places. Second aspect, they said the world was created 6,000 years ago. Indus Valley civilization is 3,500 years old only. Anthropological findings in the Indus Valley civilization disprove the Aryan invasion theory, wherein the scientists have found remains of humans and animals up to 13.8 billion years old. How much? 13.8 billion years old, which had once debunked this whole theory. So if the current theory, what is being taught, is not true, then of course the only thing remains is what Vedic scripture says. Third, why don't the Vedas don't mention a homeland in Europe or elsewhere if they came from there, isn't it? Many times people ask me a question, why all the devtas have to only appear in India? Ayodhya is also in UP, Mathura is also in UP, particularly UP is very favorite among gods. You know, Varanasi is also in UP. Why they all have to appear in India only? Isn't it interesting? If these people had come from Europe and that was their homeland, they could have glorified Rome, they could have glorified Greece, they could have glorified Paris. Not even once any of these things are mentioned. Fourth, submerged Dwarka. We know Mahabharata describes that Krishna lived in a city which was created by Vishwakarma at the order of Lord. It's an island city called as Dwarka, which submerged 5,000 years ago when Krishna departed from this world. So for a long time, there was a discussion, if there was a city which is submerged, why can't we find anything? Around 10, 15 years ago, marine archaeologists, they utilized this opportunity and they surveyed and they found the artifacts. They found the drowned city. And this whole thing is known to the rest of the world like that. Similarly, the fifth point, if Vedic scriptures are kalpanic, or what we call as mythology, how can you have the name of your country for 3,500 years, according to the, what history is taught to us, as Bharatvarsh, isn't it? Bharat never existed, or Bharat never existed. They were fictional characters. It's just like Harry Potter becomes a very famous novel, and London decides to change its name. Not the London, UK decides to change its name and call it Harry Pradesh. And generation after generation, they keep calling UK as Harry Pradesh or Harry Varsha or whatnot. Doesn't make sense, not at all. Name has a reason, name has a purpose. See, every name that is given to us in our tradition has a meaning. Madan Sundar, of course, that's an initiative name, have a meaning. Even the Mayank has a meaning. I'm pretty sure all of your names would have a meaning. Of course, those who adopt English names like Tom, Pop, Pinku, Tinku, God knows what are their meanings. Otherwise, everything had a meaning. So why would it happen? And the last or the least, what was the result of this Aryan invasion theory on the origin of the Vedas and on the practice of Vedic culture? That's a very important thing. The very first thing, this whole Aryan invasion theory established amongst the intellectuals, and then through the education system, among all, Vedic scriptures to be mythology. Unfortunately, people address Ramayana, Mahabharata, and scriptures as mythology. Never happened. What happened at Ayodhya? The court had to be proven that Lord Ram had taken birth there, and people are fooled for millions of years worshipping that place and the Lord there. Anyways, first thing is mythology. That's how scriptures became mythology. Second, large-scale atheism. Once you reject Vedic scripture, which is the word of the God, then you deny God, period. Isn't it? When you call it to be fictional, and it leads to atheism. And that's why people have no faith and no interest in spirituality. Even the practice of yoga has become a big, huge 2 billion industry. This is not India, this is America. And 2 billion industry is not what you pay for the yoga. This is the merchandise. Every year, the merchandise worth $2 billion is sold and purchased in America alone. That big is an industry. You can imagine how much the tutors would be charging and earning through it. That it has got no spiritual inclination. And third, doubt scriptures, and we have become so trained or tuned to that we continue to doubt scriptures and the facts of scriptures unless it is accepted by Westerners. When Westerners embraced yoga, now you see yoga centers in every society, isn't it? And that's what happens. And the fourth, and I would say another very crucial factor, so this Aryan invasion theory, the points that they covered in this whole theoretical aspect, it led to the division of our society, Brahmanas versus Dalit. The seed of the animosity and envy was sowed by the Britishers through such kind of similar kind of theories. And there are many other concepts, many other things that we did. That's not the subject matter, so I'll pause here. So this is how they had continued to brainwash us through this Aryan invasion theory and other things. And point is, there is no scientific fact for any of these things. In fact, scientific facts are contrary to the Aryan invasion theory. This is for your perusal. I'll let it for you to decide who you want to put faith. Because we are coming on to the subject matter of Atma, I thought it's very important to first of all solidify our faith in scriptures. Because science and spirituality both begins with faith. So this is one of the subject matter which requires faith. Of course, we're going to give you scientific evidences and logic and all that. But ultimately, we have to put faith. And we can only put faith on the concept of Atma when you have faith in the person or in the scriptures that are teaching you, isn't it? If you don't have faith in it, how would you put faith in the message given? That's the reason I kind of, briefly established this whole subject matter. Let's begin. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where will I go after death? Generally, when you ask people who are they, people say their name. First name, last name. Last name refers to your family lineage. Then your nationality, then your gender. This is what only we know of. People today are so consumed with their lives that they're so busy, or they pretend to be busy, that they don't want to think on this very essential subject matter. Who am I? Look at the face of the dead person, a person who have died. The relatives, just until some time ago, when he was alive, they loved him so much. But the moment the person dies, nobody wants to go around that person, yes or no? They want to discard that body as soon as possible. Immediately, something happens in the body because of which everyone becomes afraid of the body. But all your life, you love that body only, yes or no? But what so suddenly changed that now you're so scared of this body? So when you talk to people, as I said, everyone says, Prabhu, samay nahi hai, we are so busy in life. And this whole excuse that I'm busy and I'm busy, people are not taking advantage of the great spiritual science available to us. Not that everyone is really busy. Some people pretend to be busy. There was a manager whenever anyone would knock on his cabin door, immediately he'll pick up the 2 landline phones. Yes, order abhi aa raha hai. All right, what's your order? And he will pretend as if he's talking, and then he would make the person wait for some time. And after a while, he'll say, yes, come in. And people will say, our manager is so busy, always busy. Not one phone, two phone. He talks in 2 phones. He's so busy. So one day, one guest came to his cabin door. He knocked on the door. He opened the door. And as soon as the knock was there, the manager picked up both the landlines. Yes, your order has been dispatched. What's your order? And he's talking all the same. And he told the guest, wait, I'm busy. I'll call you in a few minutes. After some time, he called that person. Yes, sir, how can I help you? And that person said, sir, I have come from telephone company. I'm a telephone operator. Your both landlines are not working. I have come to fix it. Anyway, that was a little joke around it. But the point is, yeah, that's what somehow we have consumed ourselves in a self-created, activities. Look at the life. Our life is like a journey between 2 points. The 2 points that I call as birth and death. Before we are born, we don't know anything about us. In fact, when we are born also, we don't know anything about us. We are told everything. As soon as we are born, whoever we are born, we are given different designations and identities. We are given our name. We are told us about our gender, religion, nationality, caste, parents, and etc. And we spend rest of our life defending these tags and identities. Yes or no? मेरे परिवार की इज्जत, मेरी राष्ट्र की इज्जत, मेरे gender की इज्जत. Everyone is talking about my rights, the rights of my gender, the rights of my country, the rights of my family. And like that, people spend their whole life defending the inconsequential. That's the whole point. And finally, as they say in English, death is inevitable. Finally, we all face death. And when death happens, then everything disappears. None of these tags exist once we quit this body. And that's the whole thing. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vashamsi jinani yatha vihaya navani grahnati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Krishna tells Arjuna, hey Arjuna, Vashamsi means vastra, clothes. Jirnani means old. When clothes becomes old and torn out, yatha vihaya, we give up the clothes. And what we do? Navani granati naro parani. At that point of time, we accept the new piece of clothes. Yes, obviously we do all that. And then Krishna says, similarly, tatha sharinani vihaya jirnani. When the sharir, body becomes jirnani, means old, we give up, vihaya, we give up the body. And after we give up the body, then what happens? Anyani samyati navani dehi. And then we accept another set of body. Through this beautiful example, analogy, Lord Shri Krishna puts it straightforward that yes, reincarnation is a fact. Ahead, 5 verses ahead in 27th verse, Krishna says, hey Arjuna, jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur. One who has taken birth, death is for sure. And dhruvam hi janma mritasya cha, which means one who has taken, one who has died, birth is for sure. And Krishna says you cannot change the reality. So why you're so much affected by the birth and the death? So question comes, who am I? Am I what I think of myself as this body, or am I really something different than this body? Let's take a look what the science teaches us, or what the science tells us about our identity. Who am I? Dr. Harry Monson, professor of anatomy, Illinois College of Medicine, he says this body is made up of chemicals. Well, yes, Krishna also says, Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu. And Krishna says more than this. Kham Mano Buddhir Evacha, Ahankara. Krishna says there are 5 gross and 5 subtle elements with which this body is created. We'll discuss this subject matter tomorrow at length. So yes, scientists says body is made up of chemicals. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, agreed. However, the scientists do not know anything beyond this. So they say our body is made up of this much amount of chemicals. This is equivalent for a 80 kg person. He would have this much amount of chemicals. So if you want, you can Google the price of these chemicals. We did it long ago and we found out, according to the science, total worth of a human body is only 110 rupees. Congratulations. You can add GST to increase your value. That is what our value in the society, 110 rupees plus GST, thanks to the Modi government. I don't know what it means, I'm just joking. So imagine you have a friend of yours. Just imagine, okay? And he has a brand new BMW worth 55,000 US dollars, or let's say 30 lakh rupees, Indian currency. And your friend is driving the Mercedes Benz on the street. Unfortunately, he meets an accident, he dies in the car accident. Whom would you cry for? The 30 lakh rupees car or 110 rupees man? Who is more expensive and more dear to you? This is a question to all of you. I'm waiting for your answer. A friend is more dear to you or a 30 lakh car? Of course, 30 lakh car is more expensive, isn't it? But I don't think so any one of you are going to choose or say the car is more precious to me. So what is so precious with that friend? His value, according to the science today, is only 110 rupees, effectively. So what does scriptures tells us about who we are? Scripture says, Krishna tells Arjuna, Najayate mriyete va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitva nabhujya ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Hey Krishna, hey Arjuna, you're eternal. You never take birth, nor you die. What takes birth, what dies is the body. Be happy. And right in the beginning of this program today, we saw a video, isn't it? A reincarnation, where even the parents concluded that life is eternal. Where is this knowledge given? In Bhagavad Gita. Where is Bhagavad Gita found? In Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is called as mythology. How can this be mythology? Please tell me. This is proven. Before starting this discussion, I gave you the scientific evidence. Next, Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatat dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuyati. Here Krishna says, hey Arjuna, what changes is the body and what remains unchanged is the Atma, that is real you. You take birth, you grow, you become a middle-aged man, and then you grow old and finally give up the body. So the body is undergoing all these changes. But what is constant and consistent beyond these changes is what is called as Atma or soul. To give you a very simple example, scriptures compare Atma or to the body, a body to a vehicle. You know, in a body, we have a mouth to speak. In a car, you have a horn to sound. In a body, you have eyes to see. In a car, you have headlight to see. You can do a comparison like this. But a car is useless if there is no driver, isn't it? Similarly, the body is useless if there is no spirit soul. The Atma is compared to the driver who actually brings life to the body. And same does for the car. The car is driven by a person sitting under it. Similarly, another classic example which is given in scriptures is where a body is compared to a cage, an Atma is compared to a parrot. Imagine you have a gold cage and within which you have kept a parrot. Every day you go and you brush off the gold cage and you clean the gold cage and the gold cage, but you ignore the parrot. 15 days pass by. What do you think is going to happen to the parrot? Because you have starved the parrot, you haven't taken care of the parrot, parrot dies and gold cage continues to be with you. You know, if you look at our today's condition, in today's scenario, this is what is the situation of human life today. We are so consumed in taking care of this cage, nourishing this cage, protecting this cage, comforting this cage, that we have forgotten the need of the Atma. Therefore, whoever it is, everyone is disturbed, everyone is fear-stricken, everyone is in anxiety. The more a person have, the more they become troubled. Yes or no? And that's yesterday or day before yesterday, I asked all of you only, do you find the today's generation more happy or the previous generation more happy? And most of you and all of you said the previous generation were more happy and content because until previous generation, still there was some aspect of spirituality remaining. And the generations which are coming forward now are becoming more and more agnostic and atheistic, are losing complete taste in these subject matters. So are there any proof for soul's existence? We'll give you one or two evidences today and we'll continue this discussion ahead. Let's take a look at the certain evidences for the soul's existence. Although we gave you the video right in the beginning, but let's discuss a little more on the subject. We're going to cover the subject matter in three aspects: logic, science, and scripture. Let's take a look under logic. Logic, common sense. When a person dies, generally they say he has passed away, right? Have you heard this? My uncle has passed away. My aunt has passed away. My friend has passed away. Who has passed away? The body is still there. Even in our common language, we speak like this, isn't it? Think about it. Second, what nourishes life? Oh, very interestingly, I'll give you an example that comes to my mind about this body passed away. I don't know if I gave you or maybe the Hindi class before. Did I give you an example of a husband-wife who recently got married and all that? No, right? In this session? Okay. So the story of a young girl and boy who were in love with each other, but their family was not agreeing to both of them get married. They fought with their family a lot. Finally, they ran away. But both of them belonged to a good family, rich family. They had a lot of political influence and connection. So this couple who got married later on had to disappear, had to go down under lockdown in such a way that they cannot come out. The message about their disappearance was shared almost all across India like that. So they have been married for a month. They shifted from Bombay to Bangalore. They're hiding there in some apartment, living there. And suddenly one of the devotee, who was earlier their college friend, gets a call somewhere around 11 o'clock. Suddenly he's surprised. He wakes up and he sees, why is this person calling me? And he picks up the call, and there is a girl on the other side. She says to his friend, who has become a devotee later on, that I need your help. Please help me. I'm in a critical crisis. So the friend asked, what happened to you? She said, my husband, your friend, half an hour ago began to feel some chest pain. Because we are under a lockdown, we are in hiding. We didn't dare to call for the medical help, because if we would have called for medical help and if ambulance would have come, they would have taken our information and our parents would got to know. I didn't do so. And eventually my husband or my boyfriend or husband could not continue, could not tolerate the pain, and he succumbed. He died. And then I realized that it was a heart attack. Wish I would have taken some right measure, but I couldn't do it. Now I'm living in this apartment with a dead body. I'm so scared. Please save me. Where do I go? I don't know. And this friend, who became later on devotee, was telling me that when she told him that she is so scared being alone in the house with a dead body, what to do? She doesn't know. She wants to run away. Then he was saying that, isn't so interesting and amazing? This girl and a boy fought with their relatives and family and broke their relationship and ran away to be with each other. And that person is right there in front of his eyes. Suddenly, what we call as a death have scared so much this girl that now she does not want to be in the same room or apartment with that person because the person have died. Question is, who died? The body is still there. What is so missing in that person? They say the chemicals are not functioning anymore, but the body have not disintegrated. The body is hell and healthy. Of course, it begins to disintegrate after a certain amount of time. That's the point. Who passed away has to be something different than what we know of. What nourishes life? If I have to ask this question to you, people say food, air, water is what nourishes life. Great. If that's your answer, feed ample, I would say extra, double and triple of these things to a dying man or a woman. Can you extend the life of a person by giving him extra oxygen cylinder or oxygen to breathe in, or the fresh Himalayan drinking water or the good food? Can you extend the life? It is just not possible. So what nourishes life? Food, water, air sustains life, which means sustains the connection between the Atma and the body. But what nourishes life, what regains life is Atma. What is the difference between living and dead? In living, Atma is there, and dead, Atma is missing. Tomorrow I'll explain this to you pictorically, how it works. Srila Prabhupada was giving a class in a newly rented property to his devotees. And during the class, Prabhupada said, just like my disciples have rented this property and they are trying to establish Lord Shri Krishna's worship, but because this is a rented property, we can be given notice anytime by the owner, and we could be asked to quit this place. Similarly, we are living like a tenant in this body, which does not belong to us. It belongs to the Supreme Owner, the Supreme Father, and he can give us notice anytime. In fact, he can take this property from us without even giving notice. We are also like a tenant living within this rented property. Do not get too attached to the rented property because it do not belongs to you. Imagine you rent out a house and you become attached to it and you spend a lot of money in renovation that house. Yes or no? And after a week of your all that money spent on renovation, the owner sends you a notice, please empty my house. How many of you would feel like committing a suicide? What did I do? Wasted my life? Isn't it? Similarly, Prabhupada was saying, like this, considering this body to be your own, it is not ours. This is a rental property. We are a tenant. Third, common sense. I have the smartphone, so I call my smartphone, my specs, my hand, my nose, my ears, my body. Are Baba, where are you? Who knows the answer? If I say this is my phone, it means it belongs to me. I am not the phone. Yes or no? And everyone very proudly says, this is my body. I would do whatever I want to do. Okay, fine, this is your body. But where are you? The common sense tells us we are different from our body. Don't we say, this is my mind? Once a teacher challenged a group of students. Oh, you say the soul exists? Show me the soul if soul exists. So one of the students got up, he went to the teacher, he said, sir, you say people have mind and intelligence? You say you have mind and intelligence? Show me your mind and intelligence. Suddenly the professor was shocked. He didn't say anything. The student said, because you cannot show me your mind and intelligence, which means you have no mind and intelligence. Yes or no? Does it make sense? How do we understand mind and intelligence? We understand mind, intelligence through the symptoms, isn't it? You know, when somebody gets angry, he says, "Mera engine garam ho gaya hai." Sorry, this is Bombay in Hindi, which means, they say, "Mera dimag garam ho gaya hai." Somebody scores good marks in school, so we say that person or boy to be intelligent or a girl to be intelligent, isn't it? Similarly, the soul is identified with the symptoms. Let's take another aspect of introspection. Logic. What is the symptom of the soul? The symptom of the soul is consciousness, what is called as chetana. Emotions, feelings, these are the symptoms of the presence of soul. And when the soul is not there, the body will not have any emotions, feelings, and chetana. Let's do a little exercise. What's the difference between a human and a robot, right? When it comes to a human, imagine a group of people are watching a movie or a drama. When they're watching a movie or a drama, they would undergo experience, elation, sorrow, anger, and they're able to make judgment about is it good or bad. Now, in place of the group of judges, you put a set of cameras, a robot or a machine. A machine would not have any experience, no emotion, no consciousness, and no ability to judge. So that brings us to a question. Probably I will make it as the last question for today. What is the difference between living and non-living? A very interesting concept which is given in scriptures, which makes it very clear that even plants and animals also have life. I remember where I lived in America, in Columbus, every half a kilometer there was a church. There were so many churches all over the place in Columbus, which comes in Ohio. So in the morning when I was driving to my office, every day near to my house, that church, every morning they'll put a message, a nice message like that. So this particular day, there was a message that only humans have soul or humans have spirit, and only they have the right to go back to kingdom, or they have the right to go back to the kingdom of Godhead. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh, how foolish of them. They don't know the plants and animals also have life. Something very interesting happened. When I came back in the evening, what was the message written there? Only humans and dogs have soul, nothing else. So I was very curious. How did they, within a day's time, they included the dog? So the local priest there was studying in our college. So was a friend of mine. I went to meet him later in the evening around 8 o'clock. And I said, what happened? In the morning, the message was only humans have soul and they have the right to go back to kingdom of Godhead. In the evening, I see a message, only humans and the dogs have soul and they have the right to go back to kingdom of Godhead. You know what he said? He said, one of our well-wisher who supports our church, who gives a lot of funds, when he read this message, he became very upset. And he's a dog lover. So he called the management. He said, how can you be so rude to dogs? So the management called me just to pacify him. The management asked me to put the dogs also. So what's the difference between living and non-living? That's the question I'm asking. And the difference is living being undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts. Dwindle refers to old age, and finally death. And you will see the 6 symptoms in whatever we call as life. Now all of you are sitting on a chair, or you're sitting on a table, or table is in front of you. Before I give this point, what are the things or stages which a non-living does not have? For example, when a child is born, or when you sow a seed in the ground, the tree grows, right? The plant grows. When a child grows. So the symptom of living is when there is a birth, growth is inevitable. Things grows. Because you are sitting on a chair, because it also had a manufacturing date, birth, does your chair grows to become into a sofa someday, or it remains as a chair? Isn't it? So the non-living does not undergo growth. Now, what is the second thing? The living entities combine together and they procreate and they produce byproducts, right? Animal, man, woman unite together, they produce progeny. Can you bring Maruti Swift and Maruti Jen to unite together to give you Mercedes Benz? Does it ever happen? So that's the second difference. What is the second difference? Growth doesn't happen and there's no production of byproducts. Look at the plants and trees. They expand on their own, isn't it? The seeds fall on the ground and again they give birth. How can we say the plants and the plants and the trees don't have life? Look at the animals. Aren't they living? Look at the situation of ignorance of the whole world today. They eat on animal flesh, considering that to be non-living. They're meant to be our food for sustenance. How is it ever possible? Anyways, we'll continue on this discussion tomorrow. To sum up our today's discussion on what we saw, in the beginning, we started our discussion with a short video that actually gave you an evidence, a factual evidence of reincarnation exists. After that, we had a discussion on, is Veda a fact or a fiction? And we spoke about how Vedas today are called as mythology. And for that, we spoke about Aryan invasion theory, the purpose of establishing that theory, and the reason behind rewriting the history of our great culture and tradition. And then we debunked that theory with 5 to 6 evidences. And then we came to the question on who am I? Modern science says we are a bundle of chemicals and our value in the market is only 110 rupees. But all of us know we care and love our relatives or friends far much more than we care for the products or the objects. And give you an example of a Mercedes Benz and a man meeting an accident. So what the scripture says, Bhagavad Gita very clearly says, you're not the body, but a spirit soul, where spirit soul is eternal. Whereas body has a birth, has a death. What are the proofs for the existence of the soul? So today we discussed 2 points. One is the common sense, second is introspection. In common sense, we discussed 3 points. Very first thing, people say, he has passed away, she has passed away. So who has passed away? Second, what nourishes life? People say food, water, air. No, that doesn't nourish life, it just sustains life. Nourishment comes from the soul, presence of soul, because you cannot feed this thing to a dying man. And we say, this is my hand, my body. If body is yours, where are you? Was the 3 common sense points that we raised. Second, introspection. Can you show me soul? People challenge. I would ask him, can you show me your mind? We understand things from the symptoms. So what are the symptoms? We saw a difference between robot and a human, and difference between living and non-living. And by this, we come to a fair enough conclusion or discussion about, yes, soul exists. Tomorrow when we meet, we are going to discuss more on the subject matter. We are going to introduce you to 2-3 personalities from the field of medical and science who have done a very elaborate research on the subject matter of reincarnation. We'll be speaking about Dr. Ian Stevenson, who have certified more than 3,000 verified cases of reincarnation. And we'll narrate few more stories about reincarnation. And just like a couple of years ago, I had a student living in Hinjewadi, working in an IT company. When I gave this session in this hotel, when I used to do it earlier program in a hotel, in a conference hall. So this particular girl at the end of the session came to me with tears in her eyes. She said, Prabhuji, I remember everything about my past life. I said, really? She said, yes. So I said, how do you feel? She said, Prabhuji, whatever you said, we have not spoken much about reincarnation. Tomorrow we're going to speak about what science says about reincarnation, relapse, and frequently asked question pertaining to the subject matter of soul, reincarnation, ghost, and all that. We'll discuss tomorrow. So I asked, how did you feel? She said, Prabhuji, as you said very rightly, when a child is young, because his memory is fresh and clean, That time it becomes easy to recall. So when I grew up to be a 10-year-old doctor, my mother told me, if you want to live this life and enjoy this life, it is in your interest to forget about your past life. So I asked her, who are you in your past life? She said, I was in a male body. I said, oh my goodness. I mean, how do you feel? I asked her, how did you feel? Of course, she was a young girl that time. You don't have much idea of male and female. Now imagine you're a 25-year-old man or a woman. And now you feel like, yeah, now you remember that in a previous lifetime, let's say a male remembers he was in a female body. I mean, how strange you would feel about it. So I said, are you okay now? She said, yes, to a lot of extent, I have forgotten. I have absorbed my mind in a lot of subject matters because of which I have forgotten. And then I asked her, how did you feel about the advice of your mother when she told you to forget about it? She said, I'm glad she gave me that advice. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for me to live my life because the past life memories were haunting. So a lot of people ask a question, Are Swami ji, hamara pichla janam tha. To kahe yaad nahi aata hame? If we had a previous life, why don't we remember? It is the grace and the mercy of the Lord which you fail to understand. If you and I would have to remember our past life, imagine if you have to remember what all happened with you in this lifetime only. How much traumatic it would be. So it's good to start a fresh journey. That's the whole point. So we'll discuss more on the subject matter tomorrow. We'll pause here. Our time is up. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yes,
So,
please.
Thanks a lot on speaking this particular subject matter of reincarnation. And I would like to take one very interesting question on related to this only, which has been put up by Shantanu
Tell
Kaushik
me.
ji. And the question is like this. So Shantanu Kaushik ji is mentioning that he has read about astral record, Akshik records. And I think according to that record, one person can choose that which kind of birth they want to have, which kind of life they want to have, and where they want to whether they want to go to higher levels of spiritual planes or not. Whereas as per Gita, it is according to our past karmas, whether the good or bad birth we are going to take. So what is the right one? Like we choose our birth, or it is automatic?
Yes, we choose our birth, but not the way the astral records talk about it. We choose our birth by consciously making a decision to live a good life. When a person lives a pious life, but naturally he ascends to the heavenly planets, he takes birth in higher species. In one of the sessions ahead, we're going to speak about this 8.4 million species. We'll let you know what are the species that time. And similarly, a person can make a conscious decision to do and lead a sinful life, which naturally would degrade him down and send him to the hellish conditions of life. Not naturally to the hellish planets, even in planet Earth right now, for many species, it is worse than hellish condition of life. To name some, cow the foremost. How the cow is tortured and other animals like the pigs and the goats are tortured and killed. I mean, what else can you think of it? So yes, we do have a choice. In fact, we have all the choices. Krishna never takes away our free will to choose. So we do have that. But however, this whole point of astral records is not like किराने की दुकान वहां जाके पूछते हो किराने वाले से, you know, कौन सी दाल है, कौन सी variety की. It's not like that. At least I have not read in scripture so far like this. Krishna says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tayajate ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Which means at the end of life, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Bhavam is, the consciousness. So whatever you remember at the time you are departing from this world, coming out of the body, accordingly you get your next destination. Now, what you remember at the end of life is what you had been attached all through your life. Where you have cultivated your attachment is what haunts you at the end of your life. It's not that at the end of the life, when you're going through that painful situation, you can remember anyone and anything. How many of you have experienced when you've gone to write your exam, you had learned the subject matter very thoroughly. When you open the paper, suddenly you forget. And you're trying your best. Why don't I recall? That itself gives us an experience. Things are beyond our control. So that's the point. We cannot. So what we are attached to, but naturally comes to our consciousness. Accordingly, we get the next destination. That's what Krishna says. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we have one question from Akriti Malhotra from Delhi, and she wants to know that as per the Vedas, the caste system is hereditary or it is totally occupation based?
Caste system is not hereditary at all. Chatur Varnam Gunashrishnam. Krishna says, I created this Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Based on one's guna and karma, the system is created. Now, where is the confusion here? The confusion is until the Dwapar Yuga. I don't know how much you know, whoever this person have asked this question. Let me give you a little bit of science about it. In breeding of animals, the race matters a lot. Particularly, we deal with cows, cow protection and all that. So when we breed a cow, we look for a native breed, so that the same great qualities of the cow, the indigenous cows, continues to propagate. Similarly, in Dwapar Yuga, until Dwapar Yuga, generally it was seen the race or the dynasty, the level of purity was so great that time that a Brahmana but naturally will give birth to Brahmana. Kshatriya but naturally will give birth to Kshatriya. Very exceptionally, you will have cases where a Kshatriya have given a birth to a Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. Similarly, a Brahmana have given a birth to a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. However, when you enter this Kali Yuga, which started 5,000 years ago, the equation changes. Why equation changes? Because now in Kali Yuga, the Vedic scriptures are not practiced. People have no idea of how the progeny should manifest. They don't have an idea of the whole art of creating progeny, which is described in details in scriptures, how to get a good progeny in this world, how to maintain the purity of the heart and the mind and everything. They don't have an idea. That's the reason scripture says in Kali Yuga, everyone is born as Shudra. Everyone is born as Shudra. Doesn't matter you're a male or female, whoever you are. Now that Shudra has to be elevated to the platform Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or to remain at the level of Shudra based on the education given to him. And also based on his predisposition. I say predisposition, not disposition. Predisposition means coming from the previous background, previous life. Every one of us have certain inclinations, which are coming from the previous lifetime. Based on that, person become qualified to be called as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Predominantly, it is determined through the education that is given. Now, the state of the education in today's time is of Shudra class. The education that is given today is Shudra class. What is Shudra class? Shudra is one who renders service. He needs to have a master. And what is the today's education system? I'm not saying that. It is Ted Robinson, if I'm correct, a very famous educator from UK, very famous talk. What is education? You can go and search on TEDx. There he gave that today's education system is like a factory production. You feed a raw material and you get a factory product. In other words, you feed an innocent kid and you get a slave as an output, where they have no thinking ability, they cannot inquire, they cannot question, and there is a master sitting on the top and he tells them what to do, and then they work just to sustain and survive themselves. So even the today's education system is of Shudra type. So our birth is Shudra type, our education is Shudra type. I guess there should not be any discussion who is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya now. Everyone is Shudra. So Srila Prabhupada said, I have started this whole worldwide organization to establish Brahminical culture, to establish and train Brahmanas. Whoever we are, if we take to spiritual education, we become Brahmanas. Now, when I say a word Brahmana, some people become very alert and disturbed. Because those of you who are from Uttar Pradesh and North India, their situation is very deplorable. I'm from also North India, very pathetic. But scripture defines what is a Brahmana. Sama, Dapa, Tapas, Sauchyam, Arjavam. Like this, the qualities are given. A Brahmana is a tolerant, a person who can forgive, who is non-violent, who's truthful, who's peaceful, who's all-loving, all-compassionate, and one who loves to serve but never ask anything in return. This definition would not suit your experience of Brahmanas today, but this is the definition of Brahmana. And Srila Prabhupada said, I have created this whole organization to produce Brahmanas of this nature. That's the whole point. So on the course of giving this answer, I kind of forgot the question. So I'm not sure if the question was in line or answer was in line with question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I believe it was well addressed. We are getting very interesting questions, and one question is from Pallavi Mataji.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah,
here I wanted to, like I said before also, it'll be nice if a person asks themselves, if they're not too shy. If they're shy, they can write it because now the session has ended if they want. So it's good. I know who's answering. So it helps me to relay the answer properly. I leave it on to them to choose. I made an announcement. If they're too shy, Madhu Dipasha, you can continue.
Okay, Prabhuji. So I'm taking this question and thereafter I'll ask them. So Pallavi Mataji has asked that generally we have been told that if you will commit any sin, then you will go to hellish planet and you will be punished. So if we are saying that the body is already left on the earth, then how can soul sense or feel the pain of that punishment?
Oh, brilliant question. Yes. You know, in Indore, I have lived there for some time. There is a very interesting temple in Indore. Sorry, I don't remember the place. It's a small temple in a, a very old market area, very ancient temple. And I remember as a young man when I went there, and as soon as you enter the temple, on the walls of the temple, a very small temple, all the different kinds of hellish planets are drawn. You see the man burning, the man's body being sliced and all that. And when I walked through all that place, I remember asking this question to my mother. I said, Mata, if when we die, what remains is soul? And soul is said to be Satchitananda, basic idea we had as we, born into a Hindu family. So how can we feel pain? And trust me, this question remained for a long, long time until I met a devotee and got an answer. And the answer is that when you leave this body, Garud Puran gives a whole elaboration. Along with this gross body, there is a subtle body, which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, which is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankara ityamte bhinna prakritir ashtadha. So there are three elements which forms a subtle body. Then the servants of Yamraj drags the living entity. Well, I'll give you some interesting stories tomorrow, yeah, on this subject matter. And maybe some ghost stories also, if you're interested on the subject, if they exist or not. In the Hindi section, somebody asked a question to me about ghosts. Okay, that session was 5 to 6. And when I began to speak to them on a lighter version about my experience, so one of them responded, Prabhuji, I'm alone at home. I'm feeling scared now. So I don't want to say anything now because it's already dark. God knows if you're alone at home or not. Okay, jokes apart. So what I was saying was, so it is described that Yamdutas take the body, which means a subtle body, under which the soul is entrapped, to the abode of Yamraj, where the decision is made, and then accordingly he's sent to the heavens, given a punishment. He's immediately awarded a body according to that particular planet to undergo that suffering. You got the point? So he's provided a gross body of that type which can undergo that suffering. So which means he will have to continue facing that suffering, but he would not die. That's the point here. So it is not the soul which goes through, soul only experience, but the suffering is of the body and of the mind.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We have a very quick question. I am taking it because the person who has asked is just a 6-year-old, Sai Sashwat. So he wants to know that why should we learn Gita?
Who has asked this question? A 6-year-old boy?
Yeah, Sai Shashwat.
Oh, I see a girl there. A girl
He's
or
a
boy?
boy, sir. He's a boy, Prabhuji.
Oh, boy. Okay. I thought a long hair.
He's attending very patiently your sessions.
Oh, I guess we should introduce him to Madhvi. Madhvi is also there. I see in the picture.
Yes.
Madhvi can give him the answer. Madhvi, are you there?
So maybe we'll connect both of them. He's from Ahmedabad.
Why should you study? Because you asked a question. I'll tell you a story of your age. All right? You'll have to hear to me for 2 minutes patiently. There was a young boy of your age who had a grandfather who would every day get up in the morning and read Bhagavad Gita. So this young boy loved his grandfather and he wanted to imitate and emulate his grandfather, which means live a life like his grandfather. So this young boy went to his grandfather one morning. He said, "My dear grandfather, what do you read? I tried reading this book. I don't understand anything, but I see you reading every day. What is so special with this copy? or with this book you read? So grandfather said, my dear son, what I read is called as Bhagavad Gita. And it's a very, very profound wisdom. You read or not read, but it acts. The grandson said, my dear grandfather, I don't understand anything. So grandfather said, well, you'll understand in a short while. So their house was right next to a river. And there was a, koila, a coal. So there was a coal basket. Jisme grandfather would carry coal to set up a fire. So the grandfather said, my dear grandson, please take this coal basket, which had a lot of holes. You see those funnel kind of a basket. He said, please take this basket, fetch me a water. When the grandson looked at the basket, it was all dark. And he wondered, why is he asking me to fetch water? There are so many holes. Like sieve, we call it a sieve, right? So he went to the river, filled it up, and by the time he came back to the grandfather, because there were so many holes, the water wasn't there. Grandson said, my dear grandfather, there cannot be any water here because water leaks out. So grandfather said, no, my dear son, you have to run a little faster. Go back again. He ran back again, tried to fetch the water, ran at the double of the speed. By the time it came, again, hardly any water remained. Again, grandfather insisted, no, one for the last time, go and try to run more faster. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to fetch me some water. He went again, tried to take some water and ran as faster as he could, came back to the grandfather. And he said, grandfather, this is useless. It ain't working. See, this time also there's not even a drop remaining in this basket. What are you trying to do? And then grandfather took the basket from the hand of the grandson. And now he showed the basket to the grandson. He said, look at the basket closely. When you picked it up in the beginning, it was all black because of the coal. Now it has become completely cleaned or cleansed inside and outside. And now the grandson began to scratch his head. What do you mean? And the grandfather said, you understand or not understand? Just like the water purified the basket, similarly, the water of knowledge of Bhagavad Gita purifies the reader. So, Sai Shashwat, you're quite young, 6-year-old. Generally, your age is beyond my ability to teach you. Although I did some program for the kids in this lockdown period. However, I had put a condition for all of them. You have to be 10-year-old. I ain't doing anything for younger kids. It's difficult to deal with them, or at least I don't have an exposure. So I saw you every day sitting here. So very grateful to you. Hang on. You're learning something, and gradually it will bring about a great transformation. You're already on the way of transformation. So congratulations, and continue on with this. All right. I hope this little story could help you connect with on the importance of Bhagavad Gita. Sai Saswat, if you heard it well, raise both your hands like this. So I know you got the message clearly. Okay, that means Hari Bol, our traditional style of saying yes. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Even the story was useful for us also.
All right.
So, Prabhuji, we have next set of questions from Vinayak Prabhu and Shweta Mataji. So, Vinayak Prabhu, Shweta Mataji, if you would like to ask your questions.
Let's start with Shweta Mataji. Vinayak Prabhu is our regular student. He has my number. He can call me up also.
Okay. Shweta Mataji, would you like to take it?
Hare Krishna. Is she speaking?
No, Mataji is on unmute only.
She's on mute. They can unmute themselves?
Yes, they can.
Please try to mute now. Unmute, sorry.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It is often said, so my question here is, it is often said, as we have discussed a lot of things about the body, the soul, the reincarnations, and so on. So it is often said that we wish we would be this in the next birth, or we try to make our lives, our karma so good that in the next birth, we are some better person. So is it in Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna ji mentions, like by unconditional devotional service and by chanting, you reach those heavenly planets, you reach the spiritual sky, you reach the Vrindavan. So according to me, as you would say, I'm very fond of not having a rebirth, of going to Golok, like the Vrindavan where Krishna ji resides. So is it the correct path which I am thinking, the kind of the focus I have right now? the devotional service which I have towards Krishna ji. So am I on the right path where I'm not having any wish to come back again and to be again attached to these materialistic things, and continue the cycle of birth and the death
Yeah,
again and again?
wonderful.
So
You should bless all of us to have the same goal as yours. I guess rest of us are struggling with our aspiration and attachments to this world, and you are having the right goal. Arjuna says, "Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramabhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajavimam." And then in the next verse, he declares, "My dear Lord, not only I tell you the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even the great sages like Narada, Vyasa, Asita, they all declare you to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And Krishna says, "One who knows the science, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yoveti Tattvataha, Tyaktodeham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti." So Arjuna, after giving up this body, he comes back to me. And what is the greatness of Krishna's abode? Chintamani Prakara Satma Shukalpa Vriksha Lakshavrateshu Surabhi Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasta Shata Sambhrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma says, the abode of Goloka Vrindavan, every pebble there is of Chintamani stone, which means which can fulfill all your desires. Every tree is a Kalpa Vriksha, which can fulfill all our desires. Every cow is a Surbi cow, wish fulfilling cow. Ask for anything, all your wishes are fulfilled. And there are unlimited Lakshmis. There are unlimited Lakshmis who are serving the Govinda. Brahma says, I offer my respectful obeisances to such a great personality. In other words, to offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a goal, that should be the ambition of every living entity. A place which is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. What else can anyone ask for? So I personally would congratulate you. Fantastic, you have such aspiration. Hang on to that aspiration. And where are you from?
I'm from Pune itself, Prabhuji.
Oh, you're from Pune itself. Great.
Ji,
So
ji.
get in touch with some local forum of devotees. So, you have a regular Sangha of devotees and
Yes.
continue building up on this desire of yours. That's a perfect thing. That makes, your present life beautiful, and that
Great.
makes your destination or the next life more incredible. So
Yes.
definitely right path.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, next question is by Harsh ji. And the question is, what are the similarities and dissimilarities between Atma and Paramatma? And is Paramatma and Bhagwan same or they are different?
Sorry, what's the last thing? Is
Paramatma and Bhagwan, are they same or they are different?
Yes, they are same, but there are some technical differences which I would not discuss right now. Avoid technical discussion right now. What was the first part about Atma?
Similarities and dissimilarities between Atma and Paramatma. So, soul and super soul.
13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita discuss about it. I'll just give you one or two qualities. When it comes to Atma, it is described, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport very beautifully. Just like a farmer who owns a land has a knowledge only of his land, right? Wherever the government or the king has a knowledge of all the lands, right? Similarly, Atma knows only about his own domain. Where, in other words, the body, which is called a kshetra, has a knowledge only about his own needs. He doesn't know what's happening with others. Whereas Paramatma knows about the needs of every living entity. He's just like a king who knows about all the lands. So that is one difference. Atma is completely localized, restricted to one body, knowledge of one body, whereas Paramatma knows about everything. And there are other differences also given, but just to make it simple, I guess this should be enough for time being. Okay, Harsh?
Prabhuji, I can see Kanika Tyagi ji has raised her hand. So
yeah, we'll make it as a last question, and tomorrow we can take more because it's almost 9.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question.
Jagannath ji, yes.
Prabhuji, Prabhuji, who was responsible for the discrimination between Brahmanas and as you told, the people who were living in the first of all in this Hindu civilization, what were removed and they went to South Indians.
Britishers, their Aryan invasion theory sowed the seed of that difference.
But was that real?
What was real?
As they told that
No,
Aryans.
that's the whole thing I explained to you in the discussion. Aryans always existed here. This Bharat Bhumi was a hub of the greatest civilization. That's the reason the capital of the world was always in Bharat Bhumi, this Bharatvarsh. And in fact, according to scripture, there was only one religion before Kali Yuga started. It was all Sanatana Dharma. And there were not so many nationalities and divisions of the states that we have today, like that. So Aryan invasion theory, we already debunked. Maybe you can sit with some senior Jagannath, so they can help you a little bit revisit what we discussed in the beginning, so that can help you sort out that subject matter. Okay, Jagannath? Anything else? We'll take this last. You said somebody else had their hand up. If not, we conclude.
Prabhuji, there is one question by Raman Grover ji. If understanding about soul and practicing Gyan, yoga, can make us come to soul, and then is it required to read all the scriptures?
Well, the purpose of acquiring knowledge, or cultivation of knowledge, is to help us practice spiritual knowledge or spiritual culture, to help you come to this understanding you're not the body but spirit soul. But you have to understand this is not like your textbook, which you read in your school or college, which you read it once and it's all over. It's not theory, it's a practical knowledge which we need to apply in our life. And it is something that we need to revisit time and again. If you have short of time, you don't have much taste to read and hear, stick to one book, Bhagavad Gita. That itself would do enough good for you. And I promise you, with the experience that I have and the experience of other seniors that I've heard of and other Vaishnavas, if you read this book again and again, you will develop far greater insight and you'll find far greater wisdom and knowledge every time you read it. You will never felt bored reading it. Oh, it's the same knowledge. No, not at all. It's such a vast and the deep wisdom that you can continue on reading for the rest of your life and you still would not have enough of it. Srila Prabhupada was at Kumbh Mela. His disciple Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked, Prabhupada, what would you like to write next about? You have already written commentary on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam is going on, Chaitanya Charitam is completed. What's next? Prabhupada said, what's next? I'll write another commentary on Bhagavad Gita. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj was surprised. So he said, Prabhupada, you just wrote it. You just wrote, commentary of Bhagavad Gita. What do you mean by another commentary? And then Prabhupada said, well, you don't understand the depth of the wisdom given in Bhagavad Gita. You can write hundreds and hundreds of commentary, and it's an unending wisdom. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful answer. That really answers my question. So Bhagavad Gita is more than enough to gain all the knowledge. Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Sorry, I'm not able to see your name.
Raman Grover, Prabhuji.
Hemant. Raman. Okay. Raman Grover. Yeah, Raman, yes.
So Prabhuji, that was my question, that if I read only Bhagavad Gita and practice Gyan Yoga, then I can be very close to soul, right?
No, not exactly. Are you joining us for the Gita Essence program?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, I'll address that question there. Jnana Yoga.
Okay.
Jnana Yoga is elaborated at length in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and ahead in the 5th chapter also. We'll take this question there. First of all, you need to understand. First of all, we need to understand what is Jnana Yoga and what is the practice of Jnana Yoga involved. Not that because you open a copy of Bhagavad Gita and you read because Jnana Yoga. That's not Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga. See, everything has its own parameters, terms, and conditions. So does with Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. We'll take the subject matter in length and details when we discuss about this yoga process, which are given in Bhagavad Gita, when we're going through chapter by chapter. So, all right.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Raman, right? Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining for today evening. Krishna willing, we'll meet you all tomorrow evening. Have a wonderful evening. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji.